What's poppin', players? Welcome back to another Two Penny Games reaction/review of HBO's The Last of Us. This time, episode 8, When We Are in Need, directed by Ali Abbasi. I am your host, Tavin Bothel, here with my good friends and Last of Us lovers. Say hello to the people, Connor Elliott.
Hello, and thank you, Phil, to mirroring my amazing mouth skills.
Yeah, both of you are doing it now, and you guys are some assholes, I'll tell you.
I have no idea what you're referring to.
And Phil Shoemaker.
Hello, it's me, it's Phil.
Gentlemen, we are back once again.
God, I wish we were doing the piggy bank right now.
You interrupted his intro, dude. You interrupted his intro. What are you doing?
Another weekend, another new episode. And I gotta say, maybe this is just the fan in me, the video game fan in me. The episode was quality. It was well made, well acted, well produced. But I did not care for this one. I felt like it was just okay going throughout. I never felt like we had a good pace going. I never felt tense from scene to scene. And there are specific characters in this episode that I think were drastically better in the video game when comparing apples to apples here. And there are several scenes that really felt like we were just going through the motions. The last one specifically did not feel what I needed to feel. And so I'm not disappointed, but I'm probably underwhelmed. It was faithful, and I appreciate that it was faithful. It's still good, and I would still recommend it. But this was the one episode specifically that we've had so far that I think the game did this bit of story drastically better than the show did. Connor, where are you at with it?
Overall, I liked it. I mean, as far as adapting the original game, as you said, Tavin, it did do a lot of things kind of play by play to the point where I was kind of surprised because up until this point, they've taken a pretty decent amount of liberty to tell the story and, cutting certain things. But the last two episodes kind of went more on track of what the game shows. The last one having, still being drastically different enough, especially compared to this one, which basically has, it's pretty much the same exact story told in less time. Because it doesn't have those filler parts of gameplay where I think actually benefited the tension of Joel and Ellie being split. So as far as an adaptation goes, I think the video game did it better. This is one of those, most of the time it's either leveled what the game has done or surpassed it. This is the first time I think it hasn't met it. But at the same exact time, adaptation aside, I do believe that there was tons of tension in this episode, really only in relation to, well, not really, I'm not doing it enough justice. It was a lot more of a simpler episode. It wasn't trying to give as many nuances because, up until this point, the people we've seen in the show have all been morally dubious, but you see their reasons for being so. This is the first time you really see a guy who's led these people astray and is just pure manipulative and evil. And it doesn't really go into any lengths to try and justify who these guys are, other than showing that maybe the main group of people are victims of this more imposing figure. And it took this opportunity to, show them die in pretty brutal ways. Like, as far as depictions of death in media, this was one of the more gruesome ones, especially with a knife stabbing scene to the neck, which kind of took almost some horror elements to it.
Oh, that cleaver? Is that what you're talking about?
Not the cleaver. The guy
okay, I know what you're talking about. Okay.
Yeah, so with things like that, and of course the torture scene, that is an infamous moment, which, once again, they didn't do anything different compared to the game.
It was good here. I liked it.
It was an adaptation of the game. Yeah, it was. It was, if anything, a little bit more brutal because it's that more that disconnect of them being video game characters.
It's gone. It's more visceral when you're watching it in a TV show. I think for sure.
Yeah, I don't like the idea of it being more serious and edgy and like shocking you to the core when it's something live action than video game. I don't like that mentality to paint entirely over entire pieces of media, but certain moments definitely benefit from human actors the same way that video games benefit from not being directly human actors, and this is one of those scenes that I think did that very well. So with things like that, I love this episode.
Phil, where are you at?
I'm pretty high on it. I will say I'd be lying if I said I wasn't surprised that you thought it was kind of mid. on if you're just okay.
Mhm.
Because me personally, like, sure, I think maybe the first few minutes before things kick off, like we kind of us knowing the game story, we know who David is, and we know about this community and what they do. Um, I just think I you can only do so much in an hour of TV, you know, because that's what like 3-4 hours for the game, something like that, if not longer.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, somewhere around there.
Some of 3-4 hours. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, and there was just I was kind of slow on it. I was like, yeah, okay, getting back into it. And then there's a moment where we have a second scene. It's the second time we see David in that great hall whenever they're eating the venison. And the little girl speaks up. She's like, "Hey, you should kill both of them."
Yeah.
And then we David fucking smacks the shit out of her.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, "All right, there we go."
Yeah. See, I
It's
didn't
like-
like that scene.
Really? Oh, wow.
I did not like it because it was there's, and maybe this is just a game preference talking, but there was more of a softness, more of a genuine feeling of David in the games, and here from the jump I felt psychopath.
Okay. No, I
and-
totally see where you're coming from there.
Yeah, and there were just several scenes, and maybe this is just speaking to the greatness of Nolan North, but there were several scenes that, like, wow, they fucking shook me to my core in the game. And here I was like, yeah, all right, that was that scene. You know, we did it, you know.
Yeah, I totally see where you're coming from there. You're more you feel like there was a lot less nuance to
In the show here.
Yes.
Yeah, we
in the show.
were very on the nose in the
On the
show here.
nose.
There
Yeah,
were
okay.
even to the David's final scene, his last little line of "I like it when they struggle" types things.
Yeah.
Hated that. Did not need that. We
I think
always
that
knew
was
what his
probably the
intentions
weakest.
were in the game, but them just making it so blatant, I was like, really?
Yeah, okay. I think that just kind of comes with the territory where it's you're on the time constraint, you know, you're trying to fit all this stuff into 1 hour-long episode of TV. I think my favorite bit was I really liked the torture scene. I thought that was really well done, really good. Right, that's why I got Crucio in Hogwarts Legacy.
Jesus, freak.
Anyway, no, and then I think I have to disagree in that I really like the final scene where it's just Ellie and David on the showdown, minus the bit at the end where he delivers that cringy line is like the part where they struggle is, the fight is my favorite part or something like that. I thought that was like, it was very. This is going to be such an out of left field comparison, but it's just like it was as cringy to me as in the fifth Harry Potter movie where Voldemort is possessing Harry, and then he goes to the camera. It's on the same level of cringe to me. That bit.
Interesting tidbit. That was up to this point the worst line in the Last of Us television show. Congratulations.
Oh yeah. That line was not great, but yeah. No, I think a lot of my issues was I wasn't enthralled with David here. I really thought it didn't have the depth, and it didn't have the nuance, and it didn't have it wasn't as inviting as the character we find in the games is. And so though I don't think the actor did a bad job, he just did not engage me the way Nolan in the game does. So that's probably my crux of the issue. Also, in the final scene, I like Joel coming in and stopping her from committing the violence. I don't like her just going ham and ham, though it was sick as hell having the blood come up on the camera and shit. That was dope.
That part was awesome. I was just gonna say, I think that in the show, just to kind of like reword what I was saying like it's kind of what me and you were both saying. There's a lot more of like a visible edge here to David's character that doesn't ever like let us kind of come in like it's inviting, whereas it's more hidden in the game. And how you were saying he seemed more genuine in the game, because it's a lot like you hear that saying where when people slaughter lamb, if the lamb sees the blade and gets scared, it taints the meat.
Yeah.
For here, we kind of saw the blade the whole time, rather than like not seeing it.
That's an interesting way to put it. Yeah.
So to the character of David in this one, while I do agree, Tavin, the nuances of him were better, particularly the pedophile aspect to him. You know,
in the game.
Yeah, in the game, it was. I'm going to bring up a show called, you may have heard of it, Better Call Saul. There's a scene where it inferences a character named Mike is in the Marines, but it's a single line, it's not referenced ever again, and it's never outright said. It's a good use of subtlety in language, or, you know, in acting, to let you infer more about a character. In this one, it came on a lot more heavy-handedly, and it lingered a lot on the whole hand-holding scene, as opposed to the game, which had just a slight little touch, and it could have been taken as reassuring, but obviously in the game, you can infer it's pedophilic. In this one, it was just, like I said, way more heavy-handed. But aside from that, I did like the way that they portrayed his character in this one, because religion was the tool that he used to control these vulnerable group of people. And when it first started open, the first scene opened up, I thought, okay, is the theme of this episode going to be like an anti-religious one, or is it going to be like a pro-religious one? And it ends up being neither one. It's just a psychopath, as a real psychopath would do in real life, using something that people can easily attach to, which in this case was Christianity, and then used it to abuse them, and like a true psychopath, like people like Dave Jones or whatever that cult leader was named.
Tom Jones.
There's a lot of people like that, but either way, I liked that more twisted take on David, though the acting in the game is better, and it does make him more of, as Phil said, they make him more inviting, and then close in on you with his reality of who he is.
Yeah, that's a great point, Connor. Yeah, I'm right there with you on that. And it's funny, Connor, that you had mentioned that you had kind of missed all the action, all the sneaking around, going through the town, getting to kind of know how these people work in the game that we do. And it's funny because when she bursts into the kitchen, I go, "Oh, we're just doing it. We're just going straight into it." And I was watching with my girlfriend, and by the end of the episode, we played the game last year, and she was bored through all the action bits because it was just kind of repetitive and it didn't really service the story all the time. So she, her brain would turn off. But even by the end of this episode, she was just kind of like, that helped build the tension in the game, whereas here it just didn't feel as impactful. So I just think there is something to this episode that it's just not, it just doesn't quite hit on all the cylinders. And maybe it's because the way they write it and the way they crafted this part of the narrative is so intrinsically video game that it just naturally plays better there. Or there was just changes made, and I keep centering on David, but that's because he was such a central part of this episode that like it didn't come together all the way for me. But again, like, I'm not saying it's bad. It's just this was an episode that like, oh, okay, all right, yeah, this was another. You know what? It felt like an episode of The Walking Dead.
Oh my god.
So, and that's probably
so
it. Is because The Walking
true.
Dead is just not as
well
written to me as The Last of Us is. So, like, to have an episode from that show just kind of be plopped into here, I was like, oh, okay, all right.
A good episode of The Walking Dead.
Yes, a good episode of The Walking Dead.
Yeah. But it was almost like, how like Walking Dead will spend an entire season on an antagonist? Yes. Like, that was like a whole season just crunked into one episode.
Yeah, I think that's another one. That's another thing that I'm like, I think I'm realizing how important to me in a show like this suspense is. Mm-hmm. And the fact that we had to rush through so much of that suspense in this episode. And that's kind of, I think, where this episode falls the flattest.
Yeah.
Is that we didn't get nearly enough time. Like, if this was if this was like in episode 3 where we had like an hour and a half and we could maybe build out more of that suspense and more of the nuance from the games
Let it
for
build.
David and this whole if we just had a little bit more of like a slow burn and then like no pun intended but the slow burn that leads up to the fucking burning down of that
Even the
building.
even the restaurant, I was like, oh, it's catching fire real fast.
Oh,
Yeah.
5 spreads.
But yeah, I did really like this episode. Like we're saying, this is by no means a bad episode.
No.
I just think that's a very good way to put it. This is like one of the top tier episodes of The Walking Dead, just kind of plopped into The Last of Us here.
And then like, yeah, it's specifically like things that add, like there were very specific lines that are still here that added to that building of tension. I think of Bella did great throughout the entire episode. I loved her delivery of the iconic "Ellie is the girl who broke your fucking finger." She nailed it. It was great. But then it was immediately like lessened so by David's line, which was so well done in the game of the, what was it you said? Little pieces. And he just kind of threw it out there. Like
it was kind of a throwaway in the show.
Yeah, and I was like, all right, come on, man. And then when Ellie throws it back at him of, what did you say? Everything happens for a reason. Even that line, I was like, we could have felt that one a little more. Like we could have, like it felt like a first take. Like
yeah, I was just about to say like we need to talk about how awesome of a job Bella has done again in this episode.
Oh, they've done fantastic.
Yeah, I just loved every single bit that she was on screen in this episode. Like, it was incredible. Like Ellie is as much as I love Pedro Pascal as Joel. I'm surprised by the fact that I'm starting to like Bella as Ellie more.
Yeah, well, I think that speaks to just how good that all of this has been produced. Even though like Joel is our quote unquote main character, Ellie is still the soul of this story, and I think even more so, I'm more into her here than I was in the game. Where in the game, it was a little more 50-50, maybe leaning more towards Joel had my interest. Here, it's like, I'm really just kind of interested in Ellie, and what Joel's relationship with her is building. I appreciate that as well, but like, I don't necessarily feel Joel as the main character of this show. And maybe it's because they incorporated Left Behind. But yeah, I'm really, really enjoying Bella's performance as Ellie.
He did okay.
Sorry, I have a question from the game because I don't remember. It's been a long time since I've like watched through it all. Does Joel call Ellie baby girl in that moment? Okay.
Yeah, and that's another scene that I mean I kind of mentioned it already, but I didn't think that scene played as well here as it did there. No, I just wasn't a fan of that one. Like
I can see the other ones, but that one's surprising to me.
Yeah, I think it's. I really do think it's him stopping her from the violence, letting her stop herself and then get up and walk away and have a beat and let her process.
That's
changes that
in the game. He comes in and interrupts her right in the middle of her like stabbing him.
But I think the reason they chose to go that route is because they had this weird complex with David at this time around where he wants to be everybody's daddy or something. And I'm like, this is weird, but okay. And I think if Joel comes in and bursts in and helps her, it's a little too fatherly in that moment. And
sends the wrong message. Okay.
It would have been awkward with the direction that they chose to take David's character.
Yeah.
So why did we do it? Because David doesn't matter to this narrative. His influence does. His impact on Ellie does. But we to do that, we took away from this, and I would have rather had that. So that's just me, though.
No, that makes sense. Yeah, that with that take on it, it would have been that whole thing is made not as impactful and more awkward than it otherwise would have been.
Yeah,
which is why I think at the end of the day, because I can't help but do this, the game ultimately does do it better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so hard not to compare the two. And I think it's because they are so close together. Like it's a very faithful adaptation. We saw actors perform this, and so to see different actors perform it. It's cool. It's neat. I'm appreciating what's different. Sometimes I even like it more. But a few episodes ago, I was hot and I was thinking, oh man, this show might be better than the game. And now I'm taking a step back and I'm like, yeah, no, they're about the same.
All right, so for you guys at home, not that I'm really keeping score here, but this is the second thing that showed up in the show that Tavin did not like compared to the game. The first being from episode 2 with the weird cordyceps kiss, and now we have
daddy issues,
David.
whatever the daddy issues were. Yeah, so
Good for tracking that stuff, Phil. Good job.
Of course, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that.
So yeah, Connor, you mentioned being faithful to the adaptation, especially these last 2 episodes have been really almost one for one. And then I imagine like they just wanted to get all their cool, new, interesting stuff out in the first half of the story. And in the second half, it feels like they're narrowing in and going, okay, let's be real faithful to this. So I assume next week our final episode is gonna be essentially beat for beat the same.
I'm excited.
It does seem like they're going to be doing some I'm blanking on her name. Firefly here.
Marlene?
Marlene. Yeah. Marlene, there is hints that they're going to do backstory stuff. Remember, I think that had been
right with her and Ellie's mom, right?
I didn't watch the Next Time this week. But I do know that Ashley Johnson is in the show and we haven't seen her yet. So
I didn't watch it either, but it was playing and I was on my phone because I wanted to rewatch the torture scene to see how close it was. Jeez, and it was literally beat for beat.
Yeah, damn near.
You just really like torture. My God.
I think I might have liked the scene better in the game, but it was still great here. So it's just like a preference at that point. Like there's nothing objectively that I think is better.
If this is the parallel we're drawing here, is that Phil loves torture? Okay, whatever. let that be the narrative in this review series. I don't care.
I win. Yes.
Was this something we had in other episodes? I don't remember.
I don't know. I mean, just because it's Connor thinks I'm like a psychopath because in the last Piggy Bank, the one that came out this week for those listening, I mentioned that I got Crucio and wrote a hippogriff, and he's like, "Jesus, Phil, you're a psychopath."
Yeah, I don't remember that
I
conversation.
don't remember that either. I guess I'm sorry for painting that narrative.
I don't know about you guys, but I'm at the point to where a lot of it just kind of goes in one ear and out the other now. I don't exactly remember what happens. It helps with the show, with the news show at least, because I can be like, we covered that. But like, I don't remember what I said. Anyways, so yeah, I'm excited for next week's episode. Can't wait for the giraffe. Excited for the show me the giraffe. Yeah, they better get that one right. So, anything else anybody wants to add?
Tevin's gonna be like Steve Harvey in Family Feud. He's like, "Show me giraffe."
I was thinking Home Dude from Mandalorian with the "Show me the baby." I would like to see the baby. I would like to see the giraffe.
Talking about Werner Herzog.
Yeah. Mandalorian season 3 just started. It's fun. I'm enjoying it. Anyways.
I haven't started watching it yet.
Gentlemen, anything else we want to add on to this episode before we sign out here?
One last thing. Well, Tavin, you got your rabbit.
I got my rabbit?
Your rabbit. You got the rabbit.
Oh, I guess I did get the rabbit, but it wasn't the same. They just showed the rabbit. I wanted the moment of, oh, cute little rabbit. Arrow dead. Gross.
Did that
this
happen?
world sucks.
Did I miss the rabbit?
Oh, it's just on screen real quick and then it runs away.
Oh.
Yeah, and then she sees the deer.
I thought you were gonna make the joke. I thought you were gonna make the joke that you got your rabbit. It was just a deer. Or like,
no.
Oh, I don't know.
Also, if they don't open up next week's episode with imagery of a deer, the game is better.
Why?
Because when we get to spring in the game, they open up with the imagery of the deer, and it's awesome.
Well,
you don't remember this? It's very important. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, that is it for the episode 8 review/reaction to HBO's The Last of Us When We Are in Need. Let us know how you felt about it down in the comments. Thank you so much for watching and listening. You can catch us over at youtube.com/@2pennygames every week shortly after the episode premieres. So make sure to check back in next week for the season finale of The Last of Us. Until next time, have a great time. Gentlemen, say goodbye to the people.
Bye.
Bye.
Have a great time.
I don't have a bit this time.